Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to the Two Mic. It's me, your boy, your guy, Mr. Kevin. I'll do that again.
Your boy, your guy, your husband, your boyfriend.
So, Mr. Kabingu. And today's episode, I'm joined by Titus Magua. It's one of those late night episodes. And it's about personal development. And in this episode, we get a bit personal. We might go a bit deep. So I hope you stay on. Maybe you learn a thing or two. And thank you for listening. Childhood trauma is a big thing because it's like the things you are taught when you're a kid. They're usually the hardest thing to get out of your head when you're an adult. Okay, there's an analogy that was given. There was this lady who used to cook fish for her family, and she used to cut the head and the tail off before she puts it in a pan. And one day her kid asked her, "Why do you do that to the fish?" She said, "Because that's how my mom taught me how to do it." So she went to her grandmother and asked, "Oh, why do you cut the head and tail off of a fish?" Said, "Oh, because my mom used to do that." And then when you go to your grandmother, she asked the grandmother, and the grandmother was like, "Oh, it's because I had a small sufuria. I had to cut the head and the tail so the fish can fit."
I think I've had, the same version of that, a different version of that story, but now in my version it was a chicken, not fish. And it was the husband who asked and not the kid.
Oh, so it's an analogy that's used.
Yeah, it's something that.
So it's not a trauma thing. That's not.
So it's more of the learned behaviors.
Yeah.
So in a manner, like we can say, learned behavior.
Yeah, there's learned behavior, and there's also like walls or barriers you put up. So, for instance, one thing I learned about myself while reflecting was there's that aspect of my mom was very tough. She was not very affectionate. So I found that maybe as I was growing up, the thing I realized was never to put your emotions out there.
There was no room for emotions.
Yeah, there was no room for emotions. It's like when you show emotions, it felt like a form of weakness. So you see, when you
and you were saying this from your own parents.
Yeah. Specifically from my mom. I'd say from my mom because my dad died when I was really young. I was like 14. So I didn't get to have a dad when I was like that formative age. A lot of what I saw because it was through my mom. Like it was my mom who was raising, and not necessarily raising me because I was in boarding for the most part. So in a way, yeah.
How many years old?
Class 4 is how old?
Around 9, 10.
Yeah, so around 9, 10. Ideally, I'm disconnected from that emotional connection with family. So I realized it made me very close to interpersonal relationships. I felt like when you connect to someone, they easily leave. They easily go away. It's nothing is permanent. It's temporary. As I was getting older, I found that even in relationship, women, friends, it was always like that. It's not something I do consciously, but when I look back, I see it's things that I put up barriers when I was a kid. You see, that maybe that's how I can explain things that you learn when you're a kid that can come to affect you when you're growing up.
So you feel that those childhood behaviors that you picked up still affect you to date?
Yeah.
Now that we're talking about personal development, so is that something that you would wish to address?
Yes, surely. It's something that I've deliberately started addressing. It's not easy because it's more than 20 years of something.
So how are you doing that?
I can say, like, maybe in terms of friends, I don't, when you're invited to stuff, the first knee-jerk reaction is, I don't need to go. No. So the first reaction is, no, I'll go, let me go. let me do it, like get out of my comfort zone and do it. And it's in relation to something I read, I talked to you earlier. It's a book by Jonathan Haidt called The Happiness Hypothesis. He gives you an example of the brain. The brain has two parts. There's the limbic system and the neocortex. So the limbic system is the part of your brain. Unacheka.
I'm just telling myself. What are those?
What we are pouring out our heart, and this is men, they start laughing at you. So the limbic system, if I feel hungry, I'll eat. That's the part of your basic needs. Food, eat. Fear, run, like those things. So it's like impulsive part, and the Jonathan Haidt calls that the elephant of your brain.
So elephant to mean?
I'll bring
the larger part. Okay.
No, I'll bring it home.
Okay.
So then there's the neocortex, which is the rational part of your brain. So it's the part that rears in your limbic system that is always going wild. So it's like telling you want to eat, but because you have to be healthy, don't overeat. So that part that tells you don't overeat, that's the neocortex. In that sense, the neocortex is called the rider. So the elephant will always try to go wherever it wants to go. The rider will always try to stop it from going where it wants. But it's like a wild thing. Unhappiness comes when those parts of your brain are always in like a disagreement. But what he was trying to explain to us is try and train your brain. So for instance, like that's what I'm saying, when your friends want to invite to something for me now, and the first instinct is to go no. Try to train your brain to say, let's just go and try and see how everything will come out. It's like getting yourself out of your comfort zone. Try to work, try to train that elephant to not always be directing it. It wants to.
So you're sort of retraining your brain.
Yeah, exactly. Retraining my brain to like do away with all those things I learned all those years ago, which have always been my comfort zone up to now. And maybe at some point, I was feeling I don't know how do you know you're depressed?
Well, when you're depressed, you know you're depressed.
Do you know you're depressed?
Yes, you know you're depressed. Because of course you're going to notice the changes in your mood. You're going to see the changes in your sleeping patterns, your anxiety, your willingness to like even the things you used to enjoy, you're not enjoying them anymore. So when you'll notice that, but maybe for someone who's never been depressed before, they will not know what's going on. But once you've understood what depression is, you can.
So what if your whole life was that? How will you know you were living something different? Like to you, that's normal.
It's a difficult question.
Yeah, but I feel like, for instance, for me, like I'm saying, learning. I think the key thing I learned is there's learning and unlearning. And learning is also a part of life.
Yeah, but maybe just speaking from your own story. So you sat down yourself. You've seen that there are some things that are stopping me from being a better person. You've asked yourself, where did this come from? And you've retraced your steps. You've seen this probably came from my childhood, and it was probably because of 1, 2, 3. And you have decided you're going to do something about it. And now what you are describing to us is what you are doing about it.
Yes, or the beginnings of what I'm doing about it.
The beginnings of being, because what I want to pick out is that conscious part of like knowing yourself that myself as Kabingu, I'm like this. I don't like doing 1, 2, 3, and this is stopping me from being a better person, maybe in my relationships, maybe in my career. And you have decided to do something about it. Because I feel like before anything is done, there needs to be that intention to do it. And getting to the point where that intention is clear, there needs to be a certain level of self-awareness, because the person who does not know they're sick will not go looking for a doctor. So suppose if you never knew you had a problem, you will never bother to maybe even do things differently. So maybe let me just ask. So is this affecting your personal relationships only, or is it also affecting your career, like some of those very important aspects of your life?
That's a good question. Career, yes. There's sometimes, I don't know if this is still part of it. I usually have that lack of ambition in a way. Like, my lack of ambition is not that I don't want to work, but it's I only want to work enough. Like, maybe in a month, if I've made enough to maybe get rent, have some little extra, maybe even if it's in 2 weeks in the month, sometimes I don't feel like I need to work anymore. Like, I'm content with that. So I don't know if it's still part of it. I'm usually confused by that.
That reminds me of something I read in JB's book.
Jordan Peterson. You know, there are people who are commenting, mentioning Jordan Peterson.
I was trying to avoid mentioning Jordan Peterson because he's become like another Jesus or something.
Yeah. At least leo tumesema Jonathan Haidt. There's something new.
Yeah, there's something new.
Yeah.
And thank God for that.
Yeah.
So there's something he was saying that in sociological studies, there's been these findings that in the men that did not have sufficient male attention, maybe from their early teens to their early adulthood, they tended to lack ambition. They tended to just do things for the moment. But the other guys who sort of had some level of attention from male figures, they tended to think more about the future and plan for it, maybe put some more effort in their schoolwork. Yeah, so that's just the thought that came to mind.
Probably, yeah. I think that's true. Maybe for me growing up, I don't think I had a lot of male figures in my life, if I come to think of it. Like, my older brother is extremely old. He's like 14 years older than me. I think 13 years older than me. So by the time I came to understand myself, he's already out of the house. My dad died young, like I said. I died when I was young. And so it's just me and my mom. I don't know, my mom comes from an all-girl family. My dad's side of the family is not close. So I didn't get to meet my uncles. So it's just me
and society.
Yeah, it's like you're thrown into society.
Your peers and society.
Yeah, mostly. I think the greatest influence on me was my peers.
Of course, not all, but there's that tendency.
Okay, it's true for me.
Guys.
Like, I feel it.
You feel it's true for you?
Yeah, I feel it's true for me. That having that father figure, that guy who leads you or guides you through that kind of tumultuous age of adolescence and growing up, it's really important. So I think I feel like I lacked some of that, and maybe as I'm growing up, it's stuff I'm realizing, like maybe how I know we talk about Jordan Peterson a lot, but guys like those, you find that they're telling you stuff that you feel like I should have learned this at some point.
You wonder why you've never had these things before in your life.
It's like I've had them, but I don't know why it makes more sense. Like,
I feel like he's articulating them more.
Yeah, he's
more clearly.
Yeah,
now.
So I don't know if it's the tone of voice. I don't know.
Definitely not the tone of voice.
Yeah, like I said, but it's something I noticed, and like I said, friendships. It's a big barrier, or it's something I've struggled with, because my life I always see as I've always seen as friendships as something temporary. So it's like, why? What's the point of me investing in it? Yes, I can be in that moment. I can be a friend in that moment, but eventually I have always had that mindset of it will always, at some point, it's going to end. So it's like I never commit 100%.
Also mentioning about your career, how have you seen that play out? Yeah,
career, it's like I have no I think the part of having no ambition is...
Okay, that's the career part.
Yeah, the career part is having no ambition, and it doesn't necessarily mean I don't work. I work, I just work.
Actually,
now.
You do work very hard.
Yeah, I work, but it's usually at some point, like, I have my full-time job I do. I work well in that full-time job. Sometimes I have side hustles that I do. But if maybe in this month I feel like, okay, I'm content with the amount I made this.
Like maybe if one project goes through,
Yeah.
you'll be very content. And
Yeah,
not
yeah.
Think of,
I'm like, okay, I'm fine with this. Sometimes people can actually call me and say, oh, okay, Kevo, there's a job here. Would you mind coming and doing it? I'm like, I don't feel like doing it. In my heart, I'm not feeling it at all. So, I don't know. There's those mornings where that's why I was asking you before, how do you know something is depression or is just something you learned over time? Because it's like I'm waking up, I'm feeling, I don't want to do, like in life, like I'm feeling there's nothing I'm aspiring to do with my life. Like
that's definitely depression.
Yeah. That's depression.
That's definitely depression.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So, and it's like, then what would you say? Like for you, what's your end goal? Like that's something that always intrigues me. Like I'm always thinking, what is everyone else working towards? Some would say families. Some would say those can happen. But it's like, I know it's a big question. It's like asking what's the meaning of life. So
that's basically asking what's the meaning of life.
Yeah, that's
the question you're asking.
Yeah.
Just using different words.
Yeah. It's a hard question.
Maybe just to guide my thoughts from the subject matter that we're discussing, which is personal development. I think for me, personal development is a question of how can I be better? Of course, that assumes knowledge of my current position, which is not always very clear on the personal end sometimes. In terms of career, some things are very clear because, of course, there are things that guide you to that. Of course, you can't lie to yourself about how much money you make. You can't lie to yourself about the goals that you had and how far you are in achieving them. So that sort of offers like a yardstick that I use to measure where I am, what am I doing, where do I want to be. So actually, when I mentioned about personal development, I just wanted us to think around how people go through these things. And I think I'm just realizing it's very different for different people, because for me, I might feel like the most important aspect in my personal development box is maybe on the career end. But in your end, maybe you may feel that maybe that interpersonal end is something that needs a lot of effort and focus. But I think I also like to think of it as holistically, in the sense of when I want to move forward in life, it's not just me and my career that's moving forward, because I'm not my career. I'm not the amount of money I make. I am a lot of things.
I'm not my hair.
I'm not so sure about that. Okay, similar to what you have. So interpersonally, career-wise, my responsibilities at church, my responsibilities to my family, maybe my siblings and my parents, because I see them as duties and responsibilities and things that ought to be done in a certain way. And based on where I am right now, by my own judgment and estimation, I am not doing the best job that could be done. So there's still some more that could be done. So for me, the question of personal development is how can I be better in the things that I am called to do? Like right now, I'm an employee. My employer expects deliverables from me. How am I delivering this? How can I do better on this? How can I be better skilled to serve my employer? Because this is where I am right now, because I'll not be here forever. In that sense. So that's personal development for me. But I think that what you are talking about, that drive to work towards something.
What you've said is stuff I do. I can say I do.
But it implies working towards something.
Yeah.
That
So
requires-
what's the point of what all these things I'm doing? I think that's always the question at the back of my mind. Yes, I know if I make some money, I need to take care of my mom. I have those responsibilities. When it comes to responsibilities, still I usually do them like to where it's not going above and beyond. I know it's like if this is what is needed, that's what I have to do. But at the end of the day, and maybe something I said earlier, that connection to things, connections to people, maybe for me is what hinders me. Because I think like you said, you working towards something, when you have like a deep connection, maybe you have that familiar connection, there's a drive for you to try and make sure my family is all right. So for me, I think that's why I'm trying to work on, like you said, personal, because I'm thinking that's a big hindrance towards me having that drive.
I think something I've come to appreciate is as a responsible person, there are burdens you're going to have to bear, whether you want to or not, whether you're feeling it like, for instance, let's assume you're a parent. You have this child, they're young, they're just demanding and needy, they're not helping you in any way. But you are the parent, it's upon you to be there. It's your duty to provide for that child, to protect that child, to feed it, to nurture it. And that's a duty. So even on the days when you will not be feeling like it, that is something that you're required to do and you must do. And I think in life, for any responsible person, you're going to have to take a similar approach. So just know, like even the Stoics were big on the practicalities of life. Just know this is what needs to be done. Get it done. You don't need to know
So
why.
there's no bigger thing. It's just these are the things that need to be done. You have to do them.
Much of it is so complicated because you're going to have to get into the meaning of life, philosophy, the questions of God.
Yeah, I think that's why maybe I gravitate towards those things a lot.
Because you want to know why.
Yeah, it's like it's knowing the why, and it's like knowing the why. Why am I here? All those questions. Yeah, I'm a big philosophy guy, so I go to those things a lot. Maybe it's to answer why am I here? Why am I here to do what is asked of me?
If you ask me, that's a disability because because the world is not logical. If you want to move through life in a reasonable and logical way, you're not going to get anywhere. So many things we do are not logical. If you were to act purely on logic, you live in a very awkward life.
But you saying that, it's like I feel I can also flip it and say if that's true, I can also not do those responsible things if the world doesn't ask me of them.
Now you see you're trying to be logical. You're trying to be logical. You just do what needs to be done.
So just do them and keep quiet.
Shut up.
But it's true. I'm liking that whole journey of personal growth, personal development. That's what we were saying. Yeah. Personal development. So far, I've been liking it because for me, I think in terms, maybe I don't know if people believe this, those personality type things. I realized that there's usually
it's not something people believe in or not. I mean, those are facts.
There's a kind of dispute. There's a kind of dispute with them. I figured out that for most of maybe my life, I've been living in the darker version of that personality type. And
this is scary now.
No, it's like so I'm an ENFP. So the darker version of an ENFP, when I think stuff happens in life, tragic it's not like tragedy, like things that go wrong in their life. They usually go into like that introverted, self-loathing side of their life.
Because I think that's actually a very dark place to be, because you you question what's the meaning of all this, and you come to, in a sense, if you linger in that space for a very long time, come to hate life.
Yeah. And especially for me, like, I noticed that because specifically, like, for relationships with women, I'd realize whenever
You keep talking about women.
No,
How
because
many are they?
no, it's not how many they are. It's not how many they are. It's something.
Okay. That's
I
a light
noticed
note.
it. I get it. But it's not how many they are. It's like when I get to that point, I'm starting to feel happy in a relationship. That's the point I start self-sabotaging myself and like it won't last. So personally, what I do, I start doing bad things so that they hate me. So they leave me and I don't leave them. So I'll be the villain of your relationship and they leave me and go away.
But it was all a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah. So it's like it's like I prophesied it and I did it. So it's like I'm I'm confirming in my mind something I did. So it's not like a prophecy. It's something that I put in my mind to do.
Very interestingly, you know what's wrong with you. And
yes, give it to me.
And this is the thing about human beings. We are very conscious beings, and we know what's wrong with ourselves. Because like you're here talking and you're telling us, you're describing the problem very accurately.
Yes, but it's personal growth. So you're talking about things you've learned
very accurately. But now the question becomes, where then is the disconnect? I
think the disconnect is comfort zones. If you've lived in you've lived in a certain way, like, I don't know, if you identify that's you in a way, it's usually hard to come out of it. Maybe it's the best way I can explain to you is maybe like an addiction. So when you're addicted to a drug, it's usually hard to get out of that cycle of being addicted to that drug. No matter how much you want not to do that thing, you find yourself always going back to that thing. There's a book I'm reading now. It's called Chatter. It's just about the voices in your head, and I do understand there are people, not voices like I'm hearing. I'm not schizophrenic. No, it's like the normal conversations you have in your head. Because I usually find that I usually have a lot of self-destructive thoughts, and self-destructive in terms of maybe, like I said, work. I don't want to that ambition part of
okay. You mean self-sabotaging?
Yeah. Okay. Self-sabotaging. Okay. Self-destructive ni mbaya.
Yeah, that sounds.
That's how self-sabotaging. Yeah. So I think that's a better word. And so it's like taming that voice in your head. And something I learned was probably for my one. I do know that not everyone has an inner voice. Please look that up. I want to talk about it.
Really?
Yeah, there are people who don't have an inner voice.
How do they live?
They usually see their thoughts are more in terms of pictures, and they don't have that voice.
Oh.
Yeah, it's something I learned recently. I didn't know. So there are people who don't. So they are describing like maybe you could be one. How do you think? But this is another podcast. I don't think it's
okay. Let's stick to your personal problems.
Yeah, but there are people who don't have inside voices. You can look it up on internet or wherever.
But so a question. So what steps are you taking towards? I'm assuming you have a goal. So let me ask you, have you sort of pictured in your mind, so like the kind of person you want to become? Like, do you have an aim that this is precisely the kind of person I want to be, such that, do you have that clear vision of where you want to go?
That's a good question. I don't think I do. And why I don't know. I don't think I do. I'm just in that process of, it's first trying to figure out what's wrong with me before it's just getting back to zero. Like I'm in negative, get back to zero. Then I'm at zero. I see that person I want to be. But that's a good question. I don't think I've really sat down and thought about what the type of person I want to be. And maybe when I think about the type of person I want to be, everything that comes to my head is the type of person society wants me to be. I know nimeanza ku sound like the walk. No, but that's, I don't know, my mind works in a weird way. Or the point I wanted to say was na imepotea tena.
There's no one to go and record.
Yeah, man. It was just there. I just remembered.
Okay, the reason why I asked that question was because it is said by psychologists, people who clearly know better than we do, that your life tends to organize itself around your aims. Once you specify your aim and once you clarify your goals and you are set on achieving that, your life sort of tends to coalesce around your aims and goals. So sort of like the first, one of the very first steps now after, like, you know, asked what's wrong with yourself. But I think maybe as a detour, I think that's a very deep question. Really, yeah. Asking yourself, what's wrong with me?
Yeah.
I think all religious stories,
they revolve around that.
In a very significant extent, try to answer that question.
Yeah.
So I think spending so much time on that, you may not get very far.
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, I was saying, I was just saying about how it is said that your life like organizes itself around the aims that you have and the goals and the visions of your life. Yeah, so I guess maybe that's something that needs to be clear, because for me, I also wouldn't say I've had the clearest picture, although I definitely do have an image of the kind of person I want to be, and thankfully with each passing day that vision becomes clearer and clearer, and that makes life easier, because you know what you want, and when something is not serving that purpose, you will know, and then you have to have a meeting with yourself and decide, do I really want to
I think now that you've said it, strangely enough, that's how I do my things. Like,
okay, so how exactly do you do your things?
So, like, I usually know my goal in life, or it's maybe career wise. I think probably for career I have a better grasp of it. Maybe personal life not. It's like, for me, like, I know my field is maybe film and telling stories. So when I find that maybe an opportunity shows up, those are usually the questions I ask myself. Does this opportunity lead me to achieving that greater goal I want to do? If no, I don't take it. If yes, I take it. So in terms of career...
you sort of have that.
Yeah, I sort of have.
out.
Yeah, I have that figured out. So maybe for the other parts of life is where it's usually a struggle with me.
In terms of, like, no, your person now. Like,
Yeah. So maybe some of these things I've been doing subconsciously and not knowing. But I think that first step of personal development, personal growth is discovering who you are, and not what people tell you who you are. And from that, trying to figure out what your purpose is. And maybe back to what I was saying about that book of Jonathan Haidt, is there's that part of there's a part he was talking about, that limbic part of your brain wants to be a soccer player, but the rational part of your brain wants to do corporate. So who do you listen to? So what is that drive, that thing that when you do every day will make you happy, or that thing you think you want to do every day. And maybe circling back to a recent Pixar movie called Soul. I don't know if you've watched it.
No.
Okay, Soul is about this teacher. Oh, spoiler alert for anyone who has not watched it. He's a teacher. He's a music teacher who teaches elementary school. At this point, he's been teaching elementary school for a while.
You mean primary school?
Yeah, but it's primary school. Yeah.
We're so American. I mean...
Yeah, the show is American, so that's why I was using
We don't
elementary.
have elementary schools here. We have primary schools.
That's our primary school. And at some point, he gets this big break. He's been waiting for this big break. He gets this big break to like play in a band, or this lady gives it's like it's a big opportunity. If you're a musician, you've never gotten that opportunity all your life. You're like in your 40s, and this opportunity shows up. So that night he's supposed to perform, he dies. Like when that opportunity you've been looking forward to all your life happens, he dies. So he goes to, if you're a Christian, I don't know, he goes to where souls are. And in this place where souls are there, they divide souls in terms of souls of children who are supposed to come to earth to be born. And now the older souls, you are assigned like younger souls to teach them so they can get a personality, so that they go down to earth. Okay, long story short, at the end of the movie, he gets an opportunity to come back to life because he teaches a young soul how to accept to come to earth to be born. And when he goes to play, it's the message is the important part, not
Okay. Let's get to the moral of the story.
The moral of the story was when he's at the end, when he goes to play, he figures out that whatever he always wanted to do is not what he wanted. His joy always came from teaching the kids. So it's usually that struggle of, there's always that part of you. It's like figuring out, there's always that part of you that always, there's something you think you want.
Yeah.
So it's figuring out, is this something that I think I want? What I really want? Is that me? So that's usually the hard part. Najua nimeenda on a tangent. Nimesahau what this whole point was about. But I know maybe someone has gotten...
You confused even
I'm
myself.
confused. I'm confused myself. Yeah. So maybe that it was... I was thinking about that, like figuring out your true purpose and what you think your purpose is. Differentiating between those two. Maybe that's one struggle I have as well, on top of everything else.
Your true purpose.
Yeah.
Whoa. I don't think that's what we're talking about here. That's a very religious question. That's a very religious question.
But still, in terms of personal growth.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, yes, there's that. That's true. You have a point. You cannot separate that because actually even to assume any meaning to personal development or any value to any effort, you are presupposing a very religious worldview and so many assumptions about the universe because you will assume that whatever you're doing has value. You will assume that the people that you maybe want to have better relationships with have dignity because you want to treat them better. You're assuming so many things. And I feel like that's a very lengthy discussion. I think what we're focusing on here
is personal growth.
Yeah, it's just personal growth. Those minor steps on how to get.
I think
forward,
they're minor steps.
How that's going.
It's complicated. I don't think it's easy. I don't tell anyone it's easy.
But I think one thing I've found very useful, at least in my life, is this approach where this 1% approach where you make tiny changes to your life. And one idea again from JB is that the things that you do every day are the most important. And how you spend your days, that's how you live your life. Because I don't know if I'm the only one, but sometimes our brains can trick us into thinking like an example. Hey, I'm not lazy. Like, I will not describe myself as a lazy person. But then if you check how I spend my days, I wake up late. I'm only productive, say maybe only 3 hours. Then I waste the rest of the time. And it never crosses my mind that I am a lazy person. But when I start to examine how have I spent today? How did I spend yesterday? How do I plan to spend tomorrow? And you find that there's no substance. And then it just dawns on you that you are one huge lazy person.
Actually, that's a very good point. It's you can get complacent when that goal seems really far. Like, I have like 20 years to have my kids go to college, have their own kids. It feels like a very far away goal. But if I break it down into daily tasks, maybe today I've achieved this. Today, I've made steps to talk to that girl. Tick. Yeah, like...
Okay.
So, like, you say, putting...
That's not sustainable. Let me just put that on record.
It's not, but the inverse is also doesn't work because you become complacent. You settle. And again, it goes back to that happiness hypothesis I was telling you. The pursuit of happiness is found in the pursuit of happiness. When you're pursuing that thing you want to do. Yeah, so finding those small moments of happiness. I'm not saying like today you tick, tomorrow you tick. Maybe having those small milestones in your overall goal. And look, I'm the one who's giving this point. I'm saying I don't understand my life and things I'm supposed to do. But
actually, I think our listeners are going to be very confused.
They're very confused.
When we were starting out, you had nothing figured out. And right now you are cancelling all of us. Like, wow.
But,
This is what's this called? I think this is self-therapy on record. Like, you've taken yourself to therapy. You've brought your problems, you've brought your solutions, and now you have qualified and you're now helping us.
Yeah, but I think it's just that part of growth. It's stuff I've learned, especially I think during this time of COVID, because I had more introspective moments. I had to think about my life. So yes, I think the nitty-gritties and details about how I can get to that point in my life to achieve that goal, I kind of have an idea. The problem is finding that
drive.
There's drive, and drive comes with me figuring out what I'm supposed to do. Like that part.
Okay, wait. So you have the goal, and the goal is clear.
I don't have the goal. So the goal is what I don't have. So I have I know how to. It's like I know how to achieve a goal. So, like you're saying, the knowledge I'm giving people.
Okay.
It's like I know how to achieve a goal.
So you're teaching us how to do something.
Yeah, I'm teaching you how to do something. I've never done it.
But you have no idea what you should do.
Yeah. For me is like the hard part which I'm telling the listeners is you knowing what your goal is. I'm giving you the like Wakenya on how you can achieve it. But what is your goal? You figuring it out. I don't know if I remember one time I was in EBC, Pastor Ken was talking about having that struggle of wanting to be a minister and I think going into corporate. I don't remember it really well, but at some point he made that decision to be a minister. So it's like something like that, a crisis like that in your life. It's like trying to figure out what path you have to take in your life. Then applying these goals you need to do to achieve that thing.
But then again, I feel like that assumes that the goal that we are talking about here is something external. Like say, achieving a certain level in my career. But I'm also thinking about these other personal goals. Like, for instance, for myself, I want to be a better person. personally, there's a proverb that says that it's in the book of Proverbs, that says it's better to rule your spirit than to rule a city. And what that means is, rather how I understand it to mean is that having that self-control and having that solid character is far much better than being someone who is known to be a person of character or to be someone who is esteemed when they are really not of any substance in their personal and private lives. And it's very easy to have that front of a certain kind of person. So for me, and right now actually, a very significant part of my personal development is how can I be a better person? And thinking of Christ, who was the perfect man, how can I be more like Christ every day? So if this means studying the life of Jesus and how he lived on earth, how he dealt with people, and seeking to emulate that, listening keenly to what he said we should do, and seeking to do that, what he said we should not do, and trying to emulate that. So that constant private pursuit of the better man I could be. Then at that point, even when the whole world around me does not see me as maybe a CEO or someone with a lot of power, I will sleep with a very happy conscience, knowing that I'm a better person each day, and that I'm becoming better, and that my tomorrow will be better. Because interestingly, this just reminds me, the whole point, this is something JB also discussed at length. Okay, I just finished reading his book this week, so those ideas are still very fresh in my mind. 12 Rules for Life, where he talks about actually consciousness as the discovery of time, in the sense of, like, human beings are the only animals that save for tomorrow. Like, we are the only animals that think of worry about tomorrow, and we plan about tomorrow. And actually he even says what we see human beings sharing what they have with their neighbor is also part of that larger scheme to care about tomorrow. Because, if I take care of my neighbor today, tomorrow he's going to take care of me when I will be in need. That awareness of time, that the future can be better because of what we do today, is a significant element in personal development. Because otherwise, if I knew for a fact that nothing I do today will change my tomorrow, I don't think I will do anything to change that. But because we have seen, and this is something that has, for those who believe in evolution, I've heard it said that so in evolutionary thinking, in evolutionary biology or whatever, that this is something that we have learned from all those many years of evolution, that if you take care of some things today, then your tomorrow will be better. If you harvest a lot of food today, instead of eating all of it, if you save some, you're going to have food tomorrow. That's the same concept, that right now I'm not the best I could be, and if I don't do anything about it, my tomorrow will not be as happy as it could be. So I will wish for my tomorrow to be okay. I know I used the word happy, but that should not be mistaken to mean that happiness is the goal of life. I actually don't believe in that. But so all I'm saying is that my tomorrow will be better than it is today. So essentially what that means is what I do today has an impact for my tomorrow. And it takes some level of faith and lots of religious assumptions actually.
That's true.
To
I think that part of being part of something greater than yourself also does help in a way. It's not because if I don't have that, it's just me tackling the world. Yeah,
you definitely have to believe in something bigger than yourself, because otherwise, why would you do anything?
Yeah, that's true. I think from what you've said, I've gotten a lot of insight, and maybe it has helped me because I'm feeling like that bit of when you do things, don't think that you're going against people.
Society.
Society. You're doing them against yourself. And maybe that's why Jesus was saying, I'm not a theologian, but I'm thinking like that those moments, the thoughts in your head, when you can sin from thoughts in your head. Because it's you having I want to, for lack of a better word, say having a contract with yourself, and you're only responsible to yourself. But your responsibility for yourself is for the betterment of everyone else.
Precisely. And actually, that is because of how human beings are social, because we are very social beings. Because, for instance, we are just the two of us here. So let me use myself as an example. If I were to be a better person myself, I will impact your life positively, and all the people that interact with you, there's a chance that they would also be impacted positively if my good acts towards you impact you positively. And then those people and all the people connected to them, if they also impact them positively, the whole society will be better, far much better.
Yes, that's true.
So I think I just wanted to say that I agree with you when you say that to work on yourself is to improve society. Yes. And actually, this reminds me of a quote I read that says that the inauthentic individual corrupts the state. That sentence has never...
The inauthentic individual corrupts the state.
Yes. And he was saying that whenever you have an individual that has consciously chosen the path of lies, they will corrupt so many people on their path such that the entire state will be corrupt.
I think when you said it, I was just thinking of Kibe. You don't know why?
Kibe,
and Kibe, the guy from Nini.
Andy.
Yeah.
Come on. So you're saying he's corrupting?
I think so. But I don't want to get into that.
I agree with you. I think that guy is corrupting.
It's just what came to my mind.
It's the entire media. Has the media done any good?
No, I think I don't want to get into media because the whole podcast is about pastors.
You are in media yourself.
In a way, I'm more on the more positive side of media. We try to make train people to be good, make their lives better. So that's just by the way, but it's just what came to my mind when you're saying about the inauthentic individual.
Someone like Andy, now that you brought him up, and now that you're saying about how maybe he went through something, and that changed his entire perspective on relationships. My hypothesis is actually it's true that something happened to Andy. Maybe he was in a relationship with a lady that really broke his heart, or maybe several women who treated him in a certain way. We don't know. But then how he comes out against women, it's in a very unhealthy way. And how I see that is I see that as a kind of person who has been unable to deal with their suffering. I think we were talking before we started recording the podcast about how life is suffering. And that's a fact of life. I think any religious story has that as one of its fundamental tenets. The Buddhists state actually very clearly that life is suffering, and the whole point of life is to escape suffering. Christians are not so direct about it, but they illustrate it actually very clearly. At the center of the Christian philosophy and idea is the person of Christ, the Son of God, perfect and sinless, dying on the cross, being persecuted, suffering. So suffering is not something new. It's not something that we can teach our kids to avoid. It's something that is there when you're born. It's something that you face. It's something that it's a fact of life, and part of that is part of the reason of that is limitation. We are limited in our power. We are limited in what the things that we can do. Like if a loved one of mine somewhere were to get into a problem right now, no matter how much I want to help them, I can't. And that will cause me so much pain and anguish. I'm limited.
Yeah, it's because we are recording at night. That's what it means. Maybe they're thinking.
Okay.
Yeah, you won't be able to go.
But still, there is little I can do. Like also the example we were talking about earlier about a sick child. There's nothing as I don't know what's the word, but nothing.
There are situations you'll find in life that there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah, like. And one of those is having a sick child. Like a child, we tend to think of children as innocent, like they deserve no wrong thing. But then you have a sick child and you wonder, what did this child do to deserve this kind of pain and suffering? And those are the kind of questions that just bring you to that realization of life and being itself. So, okay, I think I lost my trail of thought, but yeah.
Maybe I think as we are winding up the last bits, this is probably going to be a very long podcast. I hope you stuck till the end, but maybe the final things. Personally, I think I felt like there was a breakthrough for me. I don't know, it's maybe I needed to say those things so that I can, those how you say it so you can understand it better. So maybe I felt that. I think the point of what you said about working on yourself helps society. So even that part of me that was struggling with like figuring out what I want to do or what is the end goal. I think that's a good meaning for me. Like I know when I'm working on myself or whatever I'm doing for myself, first it's remember it's a contract with myself. So when I set things to do, I should remember that. And also whatever I do to myself to better myself, in the end, it helps society when I'm becoming that better person. So it's like get out of your comfort zone. Like you said, we are social creatures. Humans are social creatures. If as much as I want to say that I don't want to connect with people, at the end of the day, it's not good for me.
It's definitely not good for you.
Yeah, so I should, as much as I can, try work on myself. I think that goal of working on yourself to better humankind is kind of a goal, because whatever you do, be it work, I'll always do the best kind of work because I know it's the right thing to do for maybe if it's my boss, corporate, everything, everyone will be happy. I have a responsibility to that. So if it's in relationships, be deliberate. not having those, you said destructive or
What did I say?
he said I shouldn't use the word destructive thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
The sabotaging thoughts.
Yeah, because it's really self-sabotaging.
Yeah, so always think about that when I'm doing things. It won't only hurt me, it will also hurt the other person. Sometimes I'm just avoiding that tough conversation. Yeah, so always think about that. So for me, I've learned a lot. We through the talking, through me contradicting myself, through the podcast.
No, but actually, that's how our brains work. Like, it's the same thing with writing. When you write down your thoughts, it helps you clarify your own thoughts, because sometimes we make this assumption that we know ourselves. Far from the truth. We have no idea what we ourselves are. Like, you don't know yourself anymore than I know you. And the same thing for me. So I think, and this is where, like, now this sort of talking and having this conversation, this back and forth, it helps to clarify things. Because even for me, I think right now there's some things I can see a bit more clearly. And I think that's something very important. But as I said before, something that is still very big for me is being the kind of person that can shoulder real responsibility. Being the kind of person that can bear real burdens. Because that's essentially the meaning of life. Life is bearing burdens. So yeah, be the kind of person that can bear burdens properly.
I don't think I can. I don't have anything else to add. And maybe that's a good note to end the podcast on. It's been a long one. It's
been a long one. And I think about this podcast, I think we have taken so many tangents. I cannot remember any particular flow of thought that we had.
Yeah, but I think
perhaps that's the whole nature.
That's how conversations are.
Maybe.
Yeah, that's how conversations are. It's tangents, and I don't really think we went through tangents. We only thought we went through tangents. But maybe. at the end, there's always that point you'll remember. Oh, okay, this is what brings it back to personal development. So it's like, guys, just strive to do it. Strive to improve yourself, be better. It's not about the person who's looking at you out there. It's about you. If you believe in God, you and God. So God, you, that responsibility you have to yourself, or that greater power. So always think about that. And when that's what drives you, everything else usually, or what I've discovered from what I've talked with Tito, will fall into place. When you being true to yourself, I don't want to say personal truth because here ni uongo, but there's what is required of you. Being true to that, having that contract with you, having that contract with your maker, God. There's that thing. So your contract uko nayo, everything else will fall into place.
I think my parting shot as far as personal development is concerned is I think pay attention to those daily habits. And this is something, I'm telling myself. Those daily habits, those things that you keep on repeating, pay very, very close attention to those ones, because that's where, to use these words, so either your salvation or damnation lies. Because those are the most important aspects of your life, and any change is going to start from those small habits. So clean your room. Yeah. Choose that famous phrase. Start there.
Yeah.
If you want to change the world, clean your room.
Yeah.
Yeah. Organize your psyche. Order your private world. As much as possible. Fight. I think organizing your private world is the biggest fight of your life. Jishinde ushinde.
Yeah, ilikuwa moto ya?
Hiyo ni starehe.
Starehe.
I think so. Jishinde ushinde.
Yeah. So, okay, guys, that's been our episode today. It was a late night. I don't know if it past midnight somewhere.
Is it yet?
Yeah, is it past midnight? Imefika? Yeah, so
it's 11.
Oh, it's 11. So I hope you guys enjoyed the episode. If you have any questions, have any comments, we have our social media on Twitter at the official 2mics. You can follow us there. Give us feedback, whatever you want to hear, compliments, anything you want to tell us. Please check us out there, and I hope we'll catch you next time. Bye bye.